Welcome back to live coverage from the Real News Network from the Klatchy offices in Washington, D.C. And we are here again with Ralph Nader, who is moving from candidate for president into November5.org, have I got it right?
Yes.
Which will be a campaign to try to transform Congress, yes? At least pressure them. Bill Fletcher and Tom Morris. Bill, you just told me you would like to take issue with something Mr. Nader said, so go ahead.
We were talking during the break. I see part of the problem. Ralph and I have a strategic disagreement about the relative importance or unimportance of running third-party candidacies for president. I do not think that they make a lot of sense. And I don't think they make a lot of sense because of precisely what Ralph was just laying out in terms of the obstacles and the fact that we have these two party blocks, not political parties, but party blocks, and that have a vested interest as blocks in keeping out minor parties. So it seems to me that leads to there's certain strategic implications. One is that we fight within one of those party blocks with an independent agenda and organization and push the politics that need to be pushed. But the second thing is that part of what Ralph is talking about doing tomorrow is precisely what needs to happen. And it's got to be more than him. There are a lot of progressive forces out there that are thinking what happens after November 4th. And part of what needs to happen is actually the building of organization that regular people can join, that do express these political views and have a relationship to electoral politics, not simply protest organizations. We've got to go beyond that. We've got to be very affirmative, very advancing ideas, different proposals, and challenging the right, but also not just challenging the loony right, like the Palins, but challenging the right within the Democratic Party. Because we were talking before about what could happen if Obama is successful. A number of things, but one is that the Republican Party, as Paul Krugman reported the other day, they could contract into a sort of extreme right-wing loony bin, right? The corporate right could start to shift out of there into the Democratic Party, making the Democratic Party even more of a so-called centrist or
In other words,
center-right
people
party.
like Colin Powell stay
Right.
in the Democratic Party.
Right, they could basically just say,
Or Richard Parsons. Or
I'm out of here, right?
shift has already
I'll
been
go into the Democratic Party because, I mean, if you listen to what Colin Powell said the other day when he endorsed Obama, he came very close to denouncing the Republican Party. I mean, he was
In fact, in some ways, he more did it because of his denunciation of the Republican Party.
Precisely. So I think it's very possible that we could see a shift, and that raises real questions for old-time liberals, progressives, and people on the left within the Democratic Party.
So here's my point.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
You know, even if we take Bill's argument, there's no motivation out there. The liberal intelligentsia is so freaked out, and that includes the labor union leaders, are so freaked out by not having another 4 years of Republicans. And this happens every 4 years, you know,
every
2004, 2000, 1996, that they make no demands on the Democratic nominee. We scanned in 2004 20 groups who supported Kerry, labor, anti-poverty, civil rights, ACLU, you know, all these groups that, you know, came out for consumer, environmental, agrarian reform, anti-war. None of them made a demand on John Kerry. Same this year. They basically said, we're so freaked out with McCain, don't make any demands. Therefore, by not pulling Obama this way, they don't make Obama better.
Well,
and of course, he's being pulled by the corporate interests. Here's the point. There is a civil liberties issue here. It may be not good strategy to do what Nader Gonzalez did in Bill's eyes, but it is an important civil liberties battle to break open this two exclusive, reactionary, dominating, marginalizing two parties. They're snuffing out dissent. They're snuffing out the competition, which in the 19th century brought us the Liberty Anti-Slavery Party and the Women Suffrage Party, and you know, try to push these things first on the Social Justice Amendment before platform before the two major parties finally accepted them. And it just strikes me that the same person who wants voting rights, you know, you should be able to vote for whoever you want, it should be counted, is almost tone deaf to candidate rights. And without candidate rights, as gerrymandering has shown us with one-party dominated House districts 90% of the time, how much are voter rights worth? The great ideas in American history have never come from the major parties. They've come from small parties, independent candidates that never won a national election.
what do you make
in your country, for example, the NDP is the one who launched Medicare.
I'm a dual citizen, so
Okay.
I claim both.
Okay, in Canada,
Yeah.
wasn't it the NDP in the 60s that launched the move for full Medicare?
It was, but at the current time, there's an argument that what's happening is they're having such a split vote in Canada,
Yeah.
even though the majority of people are for, you could say, a social democratic left of
Yeah.
center position, we're electing conservatives because there's too many parties.
Well, give me a multi-party system anytime.
Well, with multi-party with proportional representation makes some sense. But when
Fine.
you have first past the post
Yeah.
multi-party,
Fine.
You wind up what's actually happening in Canada, split vote
what I'm
electing
saying-
conservatives.
What I'm saying is, what the left always misses is they have these prescriptions. The labor union should get tough with Obama, etc. There is no motivation there. We have to find the motivation
But
that puts
don't-
fire
but-
in people's belly, like the.
Well, this economic situation is going to create a lot of fire in people's
Don't bet
bellies.
on it. Don't bet on it. It could be just the worst. People are so ground under. It's like the poor. They're just desperate to get through
But
the day.
there is maybe perhaps one, and we'll look back at the TV set here for a second. If this really is a landslide, and we see at least over the next few years a demolished Republican Party,
Yeah.
then it eliminates some of that fear factor, and now maybe there can be a real fight over policy without worrying about the neocon evangelical takeover.
3 words will come. Give him a chance. Give him a chance. 3 months, 6
What do you
months,
think,
10
Tom?
months.
Give him
Well, I think that it's not all bad. We've seen young people brought into politics. Granted, there's only 2 parties to vote for right now, except for, the independent candidates like yourself. But we have seen something we've never seen before since the 60s. Young people awaken politically to stand up, step out, and get out there and actually exercise their right to vote and be a part of the process. And don't you think that's, in the very least, a step towards what you would like to see the country move towards?
If they, A, stay with it, and B, they raise their expectation levels and take over the party, which didn't happen in the 60s.
And don't call it a day after today.
It didn't happen in the 60s.
But that's what Bill is,
Otherwise,
I guess,
it's like
talking about
going
fighting
out
for.
to a rock concert and seeing the rock star. But the key is the liberal, progressive groups in this country, the constituent groups, do not put demands on the corporate Democrats and their nominee. That's the question Bill has to address. Why every 4 years they're so freaked out by the Republicans, they don't make any demands and pull the nominee in the progressive arena. And the labor unions are the worst. They will never demand the repeal of Taft-Hartley. And I'll bet you they're not going to get the card check. I'll bet you any money that he will not push the card check.
I think you're probably right. And again, but you see, here's the problem.
Hold on, explain the card check.
Yeah.
The Employee Free Choice Act.
Well,
that we
but he
discussed
hasn't. He
earlier.
said he's going to vote for it.
It's-
Obama says
right.
he's voting for the
But
Employee
it's-
Free Choice Act.
As long as that's brought to him by the Congress.
Yeah, let me explain. We did talk about it earlier in the show, but give us like a 25-second. What
Basically, it's a
very important
it's
piece
a
of legislation.
statute to make it easier for workers to join or form unions, because we have a long history now of employers regularly intimidating workers, violating the existing law on a right to organize, and therefore discouraging workers from joining or forming unions across the country.
And to explain this issue of secret ballot versus non, and why that's
Current-
important, because the American Chamber of Commerce is spending $30 million
That's right.
to tell everybody that you're going to lose your right to a secret ballot, and equating it to like tonight's votes.
There's 2 ways that you can generally have win a union. One is through a secret ballot election that's overseen by the National Labor Relations Board. Another is what's called card check recognition. And what that is that the union brings to the employer membership cards that workers have signed, and the employer voluntarily recognizes the union. Right? Now, the problem, when the Chamber of Commerce says you're going to lose your right to secret ballot election, here's the problem. You're not. But second, a secret ballot election is only as useful as the general context of the election.
Okay, I'm going to, because Ralph has to go after, I guess after this segment, do you?
Yeah, I mean, the basic.
Okay, well, let me just pick
Yeah.
up on Ralph's point.
Right.
The short of this is, if this legislation is passed, it will likely open the doors to a lot of organizing and unionization, and Ralph's raising the
make it
issue.
easier.
He doesn't even think the Democratic Party will pass that, even though they're campaigning in support of it. So
There's segments of the Democratic Party that will resist it because of corporate influence. There's no question about it. And part of the problem, and see, this is absolutely where Ralph and I are on the same page, except for one thing. See, in order to move any of this, you need organization. You don't need just the Ralph Nader candidacy, Cynthia McKinney candidacy, or any number of others. You need organization on the ground. We need to transform the union movement, right? We need to transform politics in these communities. And if people, regular people, can't join something and feel like, okay, this is a means for me to bring about some sort of change in reality, then you substitute one savior for another.
So let me give you an example of what the trade union movement is stronger in Europe. Out of the rubble of World War II, okay, through their trade unions, cooperatives, multi-party system, people in Western Europe demanded and got for all their people by law universal health care, decent wages, decent pensions, paid 4-week vacation, paid maternity leave, paid family sick leave, decent daycare, decent public transit, and university-free tuition. 63 years later, the Republican and Democratic parties have not delivered the most basic fundamental benefits of a productive economy. That's the difference. And all you can say we have to organize stronger unions, we have to do this and that. The motivation is not there. The heads of the union are not the right heads of the union, with few examples. It's the key is, how do you motivate regular people who are getting stuffed every day, who are getting disrespected, underpaid, overcharged, ripped off. They die because they don't have health insurance, 20,000 of them a year. 47 million workers, Walmart wages, 7, 8, 9, 10, under $11 an acre, an hour. How do you get them motivated? That's the key. Fire in the belly. Rosa Parks had fire in the belly. The workers in the sit-down strikes in the 30s against the auto companies, fire in the belly. That's what's missing, and that's what we have to locate and generate. Otherwise, you can have the best plans, the best strategies. Nothing's going to happen. Barack Obama does not have fire in the belly. His advisors in private used to ask him, show passion. And he would, this is in private. And he'd say, is that enough passion? And he'd say, no, it's not enough passion. He doesn't have the passion. And he won too easily.
Well, you've got the fire in the belly. You've still got it. No question about
Well,
it.
that's the question for November 5th, tomorrow. And if people are interested, they can go to november5.org. See,
And
I
as
did the
Bill
plug for
said,
you.
all I can do is help facilitate. It's going to take hundreds of thousands of people.
Okay, let me just sign off here. Thank you very much. We'll be back in a few minutes with our continuing live coverage from Washington, D.C. of the presidential elections.